The video you're about to watch is from one of our Spirit schools. Enjoy and please subscribe. Thank you.
Father, we just step deep into you, my King. You know, where you at right now, I want you to go deeper into Him. I want you to find yourself at the throne room tonight. Before I start ministering, I want you to just find yourself right there at His throne. I want you to sit before Him and have Him breathe His breath over you. And let me remind you, I'm not talking per se about the Father or about Yeshua or about Holy Spirit. I'm talking about Yahweh, the fullness of the three-in-one Trinity combined as our God that we love, worship, and serve. Let Him breathe the breath of the three literally in and over you. Let Him open a dimension of His glory and pour it over you. I want you to just start looking around. I want you to see the 24 elders. The Bible very clear tells us that they are at the throne. I want you to look at the four living creatures. I want you to look at the seraphim, the cherubim. Look at the angels just around. They say that there's 100 million angels just around the throne. I want you to start engaging with them. Remind yourself that when you engage with any other living creature within the kingdom of heaven, you're not worshiping them. It's all worship unto the Father. Any form of engagement within the kingdom of heaven is worship unto the Father, because it all propels you to go deeper and deeper into who He is and who He wants you to be. He pours revelation and infused knowledge into your spirit that will at a later stage be referred into your soul and your body to bring alignment to who you are and who you're destined to be. I want you to look at the seven spirits and remind yourself of what they're there for. Not to neglect them. For us, as the ecclesia, we have neglected the seven spirits. And I believe, even as I have been walking with wisdom over the last couple of days, that she is crying out to the body of Christ, crying out to the ecclesia, calling the sons and the daughters to come walk with her, to come into the class, to come speak, to come have her teach you in the positions that you need to be in, releasing over you dimensions of revelation and wisdom, pouring into you the place that you need to be operating from as a son, as a daughter of the Most High, teaching you to be a king in His kingdom. I want you to find yourself just engaging with these seven spirits. They're so awesome, they're so beautiful, powerful beings. I want you to find yourself standing in front of the Father, just looking Him in the eyes. Remind yourself that as a spirit being, you have the ability to consume all His glory as He gives it to you. Just like Yeshua in John 17, standing before the Father saying, now glorify me like I've glorified you. The Father wants to glorify you. The Father wants a glorified bride. He wants a glorified body. He wants you as the ecclesia to be glorified. And we have to understand glorification comes as I glorify and magnify Him, as I take the visions and I turn it into a visitation, and I begin to understand that visitation goes into habitation, where I begin to live and move and have my being, my consummation of all of who I am into Christ. And I live in this realm, I live in this kingdom, and I project it back into the earth as I reflect the fullness of His image into every step I take as a spirit being within the earth. We begin to understand what it means to be the light, Father, and I ask that as you open up our understanding, as you open up our revelation or insight regarding who we are, that you will align us with all of what your word has projected for this time, this season. Right now, right here, who we are, what's happening on Bourbon Street, the changes that's taking place, the places that's getting locked down, places that's getting closed, a man, woman that's getting born again. Father, that just the change of that which has been to what it is, Father, as in the days of Noah. And we begin to understand, although we believe in our understanding of the days of Noah that it was just evil, we forget that once the flood came and Adam and his sons and daughters were alone in the earth, there was nothing, no one else. Those days re-established a whole new perception, a whole new dimension of life. It laid down a law that where the sons and the daughters of the Most High with aligned DNA of perfection, righteousness were established in the earth. Everything was different, everything changed because the ecclesia, the body of Christ, the sons and the daughters that's aligned with purity and holiness, again re-established the earth as what it was meant to be. Father, I pray that we begin to see what's about to take place in the earth, that the church will begin to see how things are about to change, although we never believed it, we don't think it's possible. But the reality is that we are the ones that will bring alignment, and the light is about to chase and cast out the darkness in its full capacity. Father, we love you, we praise you. You're an awesome, majestic King. Thank you for the fire. Thank you for your judgment upon us, Father. That's life. Thank you that you love us, that you are a majestic, beautiful King, a God that's propelling your people deeper into your heart, deeper into the kingdom of heaven, where we begin to see all that is there for us to run in, to walk in, to live in. You're majestic, you're awesome, you're a beautiful God. We love you, my King. Amen.
Amen.
How are you guys doing?
Great. Great in the Lord.
Great in the Lord, Linda. Bless you. So glad you're back to your house. Where's Gracie?
On the floor, I think.
Okay, maybe skip her. It's okay. You can stay there. I just want to know. It's good to see you, yeah, young lady. Keep that young lady in your prayers, please, young lady, guys. Constantly keep her in your prayers. Okay, so last week we were talking about something that I knew that most of us probably didn't quite understand or think that's even possible. It was the elimination of iniquity, transgression, and sin. And it's understanding what the days of Noah is about to bring into the earth. Now, of course, our perception of the days of Noah, and we're going to go through what our perception is according to what was taught. But I remind you, it says, as in the days of Noah, and Noah lived until he was 950. And of course, he had his first son when he was 500. How would you like that? And of course, they finished building the ark 100 years. It took 100 years, so at about 600, they entered into the ark. So I remind you, there was a good 350 years left for us to understand the days of Noah without perceiving it in our natural understanding of the evil and the destruction that the world is in right now. Because how many understand, when the Father says, as in the days of Noah, he is not referring to sin. He's not referring to the mess that the earth is in. You may say, well, of course he does. Well, if you understand his heartbeat, his focus is not my focus. My focus is on sin. The ecclesia's focus is on sin. His focus is on life and the fullness of life. Zoe life. God type of life. Matter of fact, because of the blood of Yeshua within the earth, he does not see sin. Now I say that and you say yes, but do we really believe it? Do we understand the perception behind the Father's eyesight? Because he looks at me through Yeshua. I'm clothed in him. I'm clothed in the light. So if I'm clothed in light, then the Father cannot see the darkness in me. Amen. That's why he no longer turns his face from me. That's right. Right, so last week we were talking about the idea behind the realignment of our DNA, where the Father, through the Mount of Transfiguration and the dimension of intimacy that he longs for the ecclesia to go into, we eliminate and sear all traces of sin within our perception and thinking. Again, it goes hand in hand with repentance, right? Changing the way you think. So we no longer think with our soul and our mind, our brain, but we think with our spirit and our heart.
Yes. Right.
Right, any reaction is a good reaction.
Yes, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We're still soaking.
I'm going to read something quickly, and then I want you to kind of have your own perception regarding it, and then I'm going to see what I can bring out into the light so that we can change our perception of the days of Noah. Okay, in Matthew it talks about this, and it says, "But of the day and the hour knows no man, not the angels of heaven, not but the Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall the days coming of the sons of God of man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall all the coming of the Son of Man be." The New King James would have been much better, because the Old King James makes no sense. Then it sounds like they're putting words next to each other, and then they're thinking to themselves, wait, what are we actually trying to say? Because that actually makes no sense. Right? Well, let me do myself a favor and go to a different translation. Are you guys okay?
Yes.
That was Matthew 24:36. Okay. "Therefore watch, for you do not know what the hour your Lord comes. But know this, that if the steward of the house had known in which day the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have allowed his house to be dug through. Therefore you also be ready, for in that day you think not the Son of Man comes." Again, a glitch in that download. Because no one talks like that, right? But we understand what he's saying. It's just kind of a logic. I want you to just understand what he's saying. "Who then is a faithful and a wise steward, whom his Lord has made ruler over his household, to give them food in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord shall find him doing so when he comes. Truly I say to you that he shall make him ruler over his goods. But if that evil steward shall say in his heart, my Lord delays his coming, and shall begin a strike, his fellow servants, and eat and drink and with the drunken, and the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he does not look for him, and in an hour which he does not know. And he shall cut him apart and appoint him as a portion with the hypocrites. There shall be a weeping and a gnashing of teeth." Matthew 24 verse 40, it says, "Then two shall walk in the field, the one shall be taken and the other shall left. Two shall be grinding at the mill, one shall be taken and the other shall be left." Now, of course, our perception of all of this is the rapture. Which, if you know the Father's heart, let me just make this very clear. There will not be a rapture. The heartbeat of the Father is not to take the church out. That is crazy. Right, and if one is going to be taken, one's going to be left, how's that even almost going to make sense? But let me tell you, in my day, I will walk in my normal day-to-day things, and before I know it, I'm taken. Every day of my life,
Amen.
I'm taken into the kingdom of heaven.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
As in the days of Noah. It's not something that might take place. It's not something the Father wants us to understand. That there is dimensions opening up for the body of Christ that will change and will align us to the fullness of what He has designed and created for this time and season. He wants us to know who we are. He wants us to understand that although we might think to ourselves, well, you know, we don't like it in the days of Noah where they didn't know when the flood was going to come. They had 100 years. And all Noah ever talked about was, listen guys, there's going to be a flood. I know because I saw the blueprints. When do you think I built this ark for? What do you think I'm doing? Well, you're just crazy old man. And how many of you understand, even when the rains come, it wasn't immediate.
I still didn't believe it.
See, if you look at the flood of Noah through natural perception, it makes no sense.
Right.
Because 40 days of rain cannot flood the entire earth. It is impossible. Because the earth opened. So slightly more than just rain.
Right.
The water came from the top and the bottom.
Right. It's that little part.
Yes.
And what did the water do? The water destroyed all evil. Right?
Yes.
Wow. Come on.
And it kept that which was good and that which was pure.
Amen.
Which was only 8 people. And many animals. But we have to understand what it replicates. Because just a couple of years later we have Moses doing the exact same thing. Building an ark with the blueprints from heaven. To save the nation. So the Father has a pattern. And then Yeshua comes and he does the exact same thing.
Yes.
But now we're the ark.
Amen.
Now we carry the presence. Now we get to save the lost.
Yes.
Because now we are the light. We live in the light. We reflect the fullness of the light. Therefore, I cannot step out of the light and think that that's the way the Father's heartbeat is. No, I am the light. I carry the light. Therefore, wherever I go, the darkness has to flee. It opens up a dimension of the fullness of what the Father wants to release through the ecclesia. That's where restoration comes in. How are you guys doing?
Hallelujah.
It says that these days were evil days. None of you understand. Our days are evil. No, it doesn't say that men were evil and the women were evil. It says the days were evil.
Right. Amen.
So he didn't destroy the days. He destroyed that which was in the days. So we need to understand that it's the days. His war and our war is not against flesh and blood.
Amen.
He doesn't come against the flesh and the blood. He comes against that which is in the day. Actions, motivations, demonic entities, the powers, the principalities that comes against the will and the establishment of what the Father wants to bring in through the sons. But of course, in those days, the sons were ignorant because, I mean, if Noah understood who he was, knowing that when he opens his eyes, it lights up the room, knowing that it was so intense of his glory, the Father's glory in him, that people knew who he was.
Yes.
But yet he did not project the light into the darkness. Because he did not understand through revelation who he was. Now I say this stuff and I need you to understand, I know crazy is what it may sound, but I've met with Noah, I've spoke with Noah. When I touched him, he downloaded a dimension of his life within my understanding, infused into my spirit.
Yes. Yes.
So I know that he did not know what he was carrying. But because he is a dimension in the kingdom of heaven now that has the ability to teach and guide the sons of the ecclesia, he's beginning to release into us what we should now be doing, that which he was supposed to be doing.
Yes.
You can't say that.
Yes. Amen.
The days were evil. In these days, they abused marriage. But how many of you understand that in these days, the abuse of marriage will come to an end?
Amen.
No, we don't understand that or believe that because we were taught for so many years that there will always be sin. I bind you, Satan. Those of you who know my teachings, you'll understand that doesn't really happen. But I did that just because that's rubbish. We can't continue to believe that because if the ecclesia, say there's 20 of us in this room, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. We have this revelation. We began to walk in the fullness of the light of what Yeshua has brought into our understanding. We project our spirit beings out of the kingdom of heaven into the earth. We're walking in the earth as the fullness of the light and carry the full glory of Yahweh everywhere we go. Let me tell you something. Darkness in every marriage, in every dimension of where we go. That's why they make statements in the word, wherever you put your foot, that place belongs to you.
Yes. Yes.
It's not so that I can be the owner of everything, it's so that that which I carry can go into everything that I touch.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, amen.
Yes. Yes.
Because why can't marriages be what it's supposed to be?
Right.
But of course, in those days it was abused. How are you guys doing? The wicked ruled. You understand, the wicked rules right now. Why? Because the ones who have governance, the ones that have dominion and authority, is skefaffling. You know what skefaffling is? Not doing what they're supposed to do. Blaming the government for everything that's going wrong in the country. Blaming everybody else of what's not happening and what's not taking place. Meantime, back at Skefafflingville, we are just not doing what we're supposed to do. But in the same breath, I can't do what I have never believed I can do. So if I've been taught one thing all the days of my life, and in reality I'm supposed to do something the exact opposite to that, then I can't really do what I'm supposed to do until someone comes and teaches me who I am and what I'm supposed to be walking and who I'm supposed to be.
Amen.
Because I need to understand, the wicked is not supposed to rule.
Amen. Yes, yes, Lord.
But I was listening to something today, I don't know exactly what it was, maybe it was on Facebook, I just read something. And again, it's an awesome man of God that has great revelations, but he made a statement that grieved me. He said, and the kingdom of darkness.
No.
And we have to begin to understand that there is no kingdom of darkness, and the more we keep on professing this and speaking this into being, the more power we give something that's under my feet.
That's right.
Right.
I mean, I said this many times, he's got right to my toe jam.
Right.
That's it. But the more power I give him, the more power he has. Now we've given him a kingdom.
That's right. My
Well,
God.
how about we take back what he's got and start operating in what the Father has wanted the church to run in? Why do you think he took things like meditation? Why do you think he took things like astral traveling? Now, I need you to understand that it is perverted, so we need to realign it and bring it back into its original form.
Yes.
The practice of yoga. Now, don't misunderstand me. Its original form is not evil. I'm not going to go into a biblical statement, but what it is right now is perverted.
Right.
And that's everything that Satan has at hand. And I've said this many times. Moses throws down his staff, it turns into a snake. There's other staffs that turns into snakes. His staff swallows the others.
Yes.
When are our staffs going to start swallowing the other staffs?
Yeah.
No, what we do is we bow to the other staffs and say, oh, you're so powerful.
Yeah.
The witch can fly, but I can't.
Yeah.
There's newspaper clips in Switzerland where witches are bound from flying higher than 30 meters. Same in Africa.
Right. That's right.
Excuse me, who are they? I read an article in Africa where a dead man was raised after being dead for 4 years by a witch doctor. 4 years, he had just bone. Bone, nothing else, there's no flesh, it's dead, dry bones. Doesn't that sound scriptural? But obviously there's a power that's been perverted. So we need to begin to understand, what do we take back? I don't want him to have anything at hand. Now because I say mystic, all of a sudden the church freak out because that belongs to the new age. But if I can swear, I would swear that out. No! You, it's not yours. You can't have it. Give it back now. It just doesn't belong to them. Nothing belongs to anything that's in the darkness. And if it continues to belong to them, it's your fault and it's my fault.
Yes.
Because the days of Noah has a whole different connotation to it. The wicked cannot rule.
Amen.
That includes our leadership and our government.
Right.
Now, is there a lot of change coming in? Am I saying our president's evil? No, I'm not. Don't misunderstand me. I'm saying that they're not supposed to be running the country.
Right.
You know, Yeshua was prophesied to be a king. How do you understand? In the natural, he wasn't a king. He had a dying ministry that ended up with one person and his mother.
That's right.
Wow.
Started off with a bang. 5,000, 16,000. He was a multi-millionaire walking the earth. And by the end, he had one guy follow him and his mother. And everybody else turned their backs on him.
Wow.
But it's not what he did in the natural per se, right?
Right.
Because even in the natural, what he did looked completely crazy.
Right.
Oh, I'm dying for your sins. I'm the Son of God. Whatever, dude.
Yep.
But it's what happened in the spirit, the power that he carried, the king that he was, the establishment of the example of who we are in the earth.
Yes.
That which he's already done, the going into the mountain of the Lord, the face-to-face communication with the Father, the projection of who he is as he walks the earth in the Spirit, bringing alignment and propelling things back into place, bringing the kingdom of heaven into the earth and showing it with power.
Yes.
But all we want to see is signs and wonders. We want to see a miracle.
Right.
But let me tell you something. You can see 100,000 miracles every day of your life and you will not grow.
That's
Right.
He didn't say, my people die because of a lack of miracles.
Amen.
Come on now.
The gifts are not going to teach you anything. It's just a gift. It's the fluffy things of the kingdom. And the kingdom of God's not what I do.
That's right.
It's who I am.
Yes.
His desire for us is obviously to understand this.
Yes.
The mighty men, the warriors, are about to rise up.
Yes.
I need you to understand, when Noah's sons and daughter-in-laws repopulated the earth, everything that they established had to come directly from Yahweh. I mean, understand, when you're the only people on the planet, and God, the one you worship, eliminated everybody around you because of evil, you're gonna kind of have a lack of evil.
Yes.
Amen.
There's gonna be a dimension of, well, I'm not gonna sin because, the last guy that died.
Powder.
Because there's a whole different mindset now. And they are raising up a people, a perception and understanding of purity and holiness within the earth because there's no understanding of anything else. The Father and the purity that he can. Let me remind you, his bloodline is Enoch. He didn't even die. That was his grandfather.
Yes.
Yes.
His mother gave birth to him. And let me just remind you, that was the bloodline of righteousness that was connected to such an extent that the fullness of the light projected out of him. So much so that his father ran away at birth. And I remind you that in this time, the earth was rampant with all kinds of heavenly beings. And I know there's theology out there that said the angels had sex with the woman on the earth and made giants. Poop. There's other revelations that we haven't spoken about yet, but the sons of man walked the earth because some of them fell. Matter of fact, they say that 200 of them gave up their estate, the original estate. That could be, and I'm not saying it is, but that could be the sons and daughters of Adam and Eve.
Yes.
Because how many of you understand? The Father said to them, go multiply while they were still in Eden. While they were still in the heavens, before they fell.
Right.
And what do you think they did? They didn't rebel yet, so they went and multiplied. No, they didn't multiply according to our perception of multiplication. We need to just begin to understand. We can't have one theology that says, well, angels can't reproduce, and then another that says, well, they did. They need DNA to reproduce. That's the biggest problem. That's why Satan needs your trading. He needs you to sin. So he can use your DNA to trade with. Because he doesn't have DNA. There's nothing for him in it.
Right.
But we could also have a different perception where as they grew the population, there was obviously a bloodline in the daughters that wasn't as pure as that of the sons. Sorry, ladies. Don't look at me with that tone. Because the daughters didn't come from Noah. Right, so the bloodline was different. As the population grew, there was a measure of evil seed. Eventually what would happen is the godly married the ungodly. and change the DNA. Because I remind you, I have 3 strands of DNA. If I to marry someone that has 2 strands of DNA and we have children, there's a mixed DNA there. There's a big fat mess. So I produced something completely different than what was intended to be produced.
Come on.
That's right.
But we begin to understand that the Father has established a whole new way of thinking after the flood. So the days of Noah and the start of it was a dimension of purity and holiness, an understanding of power, fire, going into the kingdom, receiving blueprints from the Father to do His will, to speak the obedience into place, to realign things according to what He has designed for the ecclesia to do.
Glory.
It said that violence prevailed. How many of you understand that there will be a day when there will be no violence? And I show just a very small example. It's completely the opposite, but I believe that it kind of makes sense. Okay, so epilepsy is a very violent disease, right? I mean, if you ever had an epileptic attack, I had one once, and it was nasty. I mean, as a matter of fact, I remember it was the strangest thing, because I've never had it before. I never had it again afterwards. But I remember it was very violent. I remember afterwards, my friends were telling me that I was busy kicking a car, because it happened right in front of a car. And I kicked this car, I ran into it, I almost bit my tongue off. It was weird, because as it started happening, it was weird. It was something I couldn't control. I was outside in the sun the whole day. Anyway, my sister-in-law, she's got full-blown, I don't know what you would call it, she gets seizures almost all the time. She's on intense medication. And so she comes and she stays with me and Claire for a year after she finished school. In that year, she did not have one epileptic fit.
Amen.
Not one.
That's the Lord.
And she has them all the time.
Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
Why? Because of the presence. Because who we are, the establishment of the governance within that house.
Yes.
My son, at 6 months old, falls off of the bed. Actually more like jumping off the bed.
Yeah.
And he cracks the back of his skull as a hairline fracture.
Wow.
And because of the results of that, he gets seizures. But at first we don't know what it is, because all he would do is this. We just roll his eyes back. Until we realize that it's actually a little seizure. I pray over him and establish the governance of the kingdom in and around him. And it stops immediately.
Yes. Amen.
Did you understand? My son's,
The blood of Yeshua.
his temperature is so intense that the doctor says if it doesn't come down right now, we have to admit him to hospital. In South Africa, it's Celsius, so it was about 43. So it'll probably be about 106. It's hectic. It's too much. And I just said to my wife, well, I've prayed, you've prayed, but let's come together.
Yes.
Because together, the two forms an ark.
Yes.
And as we come together, immediately the temperature drops.
Come on.
Last shake. My
Yes,
God.
yes.
My God.
Come on.
See, violence will not prevail. Why? Because the ecclesia walks in the earth. Now, even while we were soaking, I don't know, maybe you did feel it, maybe you didn't, but what happened is I would have my spirit on the outside and walking through the building, walking through the city, and what happened is I literally had some of you come with me into the city. And the Father reminded me that it is the spirit man that walks in the fullness of the glory of Yeshua, carrying that dimension of glory into the earth that brings alignment.
Yes.
Our works is not nullified. Don't misunderstand me. I love healing. I love the gifts. I love feeding the poor. I love evangelism. I love all the stuff we do. But the physical stuff we do can never have the same power and impact as that which we do in the Spirit.
Amen.
Wow.
And what you do yourself a favor, and when you see Yeshua again in the kingdom of heaven, ask him the impact he had in the Spirit. Because we've got the 4 Gospels. And just by the way, if you didn't know this, theology would teach you that the 4 Gospels is taken place over 3 years of his ministry, right?
That's right.
But it's only 26 days after 3 years. And that's the physical. So what else did he do in the spirit that we don't know? that wasn't written down.
That's right.
You know, if you ever go into the Spirit, you ask Him, because what you can do, and I want to remind you of this, because you're Spirit and the Word is Spirit, you can go into the timeline where what happened. And what I've done a couple of times, and I only did it because I heard a testimony. How many of you understand the word testimony means replicate? Right? So as I hear a testimony, I do the same thing, because that's how I roll. So I hear Ian Clayton teach us about something, and he says that one of his friends went into the Word, and as his disciples left, Yeshua kept on praying. But when his disciples left and he kept on praying for the people, it was a whole different dimension that opened.
Right. Yes.
The healing that took place, because I remind you, they wrote what they saw.
That's right.
Yes.
So when they no longer wrote what they saw and he did what he wanted to do, wanted to release, there was a greater dimension of power that was hitting the earth.
Yes.
He wants us to begin to see that which was hidden. That's why the ignition of this revelation today opens up the portholes. That's what the 24 elders are there for. That's what the 24 laws are there for. That's the understanding of each of those laws opens up a porthole, an ark of revelation for us to go into, access into deeper dimensions within the kingdom of heaven.
Yes, yes.
Amen.
Man had lost respect for God's image in man. Now you understand, the world hates religion. And it will always hate religion. Why? First of all, I remind you, even religion in the church, it will do the same thing it's always done. It killed Jesus. It's not going to stop killing Jesus. You know, I said it before, if you give me my favorite chocolate wrapped in vomit, I don't want it. You know, it's not soup, it's vomit, but I've got your favorite chocolate in there somewhere mixed within the vomit. Are you excited? No. Matter of fact, I'll give you the fivefold in one. That's exactly what we've been doing as the church, right?
Right.
So they have no respect for us. They don't see the image in us because the image is covered by vomit. I mean, I guess I can use a nicer example, but I would like to do the graphic. Vomit's disgusting, right? And of course, in the days of Noah, it was pure. There was no defilement whatsoever in any way, fashion, or form. I believe that we're going to begin to walk, we're going to begin to see, we're going to begin to understand who we are. That when we go into the streets, we're not going to have to do it the way we used to do it, because the glory we carry is going to carry us.
Right.
The light that we have is going to reflect. And I believe this is what the Father said to me. He said, that which is revealed to you in the Spirit will manifest itself in the flesh.
Thank you, Jesus.
As Moses came down the mountain,
Yes.
so will the ecclesia, the sons of God, walk in the earth.
Yes, yes.
Now that's freaky. That hasn't happened yet. I haven't seen or heard of that yet. But there'll be a day.
Yes.
But I remind you, Noah opens his eyes and lit up the room. It didn't change. Why would it change? Why would it change through his day? He was a phenomenal being. Now I remind you of something, because in those days it was freaky, right? Because even the high priest at a later point in life didn't knock on the veil and then a magic door opened for him. As a matter of fact, for him to put the incense in, not the insects, not cockroaches, for him to put his hand through, he literally had to put his hand through.
Yes.
The incense, and if there wasn't enough smoke within that room and he goes in, he dies. So he had to put his hand in, and then he had to put his head in to make sure that there's enough. And then he had to walk through it.
Yes.
And of course, I said it before, but the walking through was the engagement into all the revelation that came through all the previous generations. Because the veil became thicker every year. After every generation, every priest that had ever been a priest would have his garment sewed to the veil. So eventually there was a 10-inch veil that you have to walk through.
Yes.
And of course, the understanding of the veil tearing from the top to the bottom is the establishment of government. The government from the heavens coming down into the earth.
Yes.
Establishing leadership from there into the earth.
Yes.
Knowing that I can't do anything unless I establish it in the heavens first. That's what Noah did. He established blueprints and brought it into the earth and ran according to what he saw and what the Father has revealed to him to do.
Yes.
They were dark days. Now we need to understand that there will only be dark days because the light is not there. You know, darkness cannot decide, well, I'm going to rebel against light and not flee. Doesn't even matter how small the light is. Where the light is, there is no darkness.
Yes.
Yes.
There's no fight. It's not, well, I'm going to choose not to do that today, so when the light comes, I'm just going to be dark. It doesn't work like that. Light overshadows darkness every time.
Yes. Yes.
So if there's darkness, the only reason is because there's no light.
Right.
So if there is light in the darkness, but the darkness prevails, then the light is skedaddling. Because the light is then operating out of a mental understanding and perception instead of actually being in the Spirit. Because I can know about the Spirit, I can walk according to what I should if I was in the Spirit, but it all just takes place in my knowledge, in my head.
Yes, Lord.
I can bind Satan with knowledge. I can come against him with knowledge. I can know the Word and understand it with my natural perception and have a great understanding of what I've learned all in my soul. And not have the impact as the fullness of the light as what I would have when I'm in the Spirit, in the light, physically a spirit being. Reflecting that fullness into the earth through my soul and my body.
Amen. That's right. Preach. My God. Mighty God. Thank you.
How you guys doing?
Thank you.
Sin conquered.
Fire.
How many understand that if it conquered before the flood, then it cannot conquer after the flood? It just can't. So if it's going to be like it was supposed to be in the days of Noah, then we need to understand that we have the ability, carrying the fullness of light, to establish complete purity within every place we go. Is Bourbon Street shutting down? Yes.
Yes.
It has no choice. Why? Because the light's there.
Come on.
And the light's not there like it used to be. The light's now physically there in the Spirit.
Yes.
So it's not there in knowledge, it's not there in understanding, it's not there in works. It's there in the fullness of what the blueprints of heaven was pulled down and to perceive it, so that we do it as according to what the Father has handed it down from the fullness.
Yes.
I want you to understand, He gives you from the heavens in its full capacity what needs to be done. And if we're doing it only out of our natural understanding, then it's not going to have the effect that it's supposed to have. But I look at what's happened over the last 3 years, and I see how the man and the woman that operates and work within the city is starting to go in the Spirit to do things.
Yes. Amen. All the time.
It's changing stuff.
Glory. Yes, Lord. Thank
Because what happened in the last 2 years on Bourbon Street, and I'm not even knowing the fullness of it, I just know what I've heard as testimonies, is way more powerful than what's happened over the last 500 years.
Yes. Thank you.
The results that's being seen today over the last 2 or 3 years is greater than what they've ever had there.
Yes. Thank you.
Now we understand we can no longer wait for what was promised in our perception.
Amen.
Because our perception was wrong.
Right.
So what we're waiting for is never going to happen. It's just like the Jews in Jesus. They perceived him to come in a certain way, and he came in a different way, and they missed him.
Right. My God.
Just like we will miss him, because our perception of eschatology is completely whacked out. And that's Satan's trick.
That's true.
He likes to make us think something's going to happen one way, and then he hammers that belief into us to such an extent that when it does happen, we miss it completely.
My God.
And the funny thing is that every revival that has taken place has happened the exact same way. And in the revival that's taken place, the same things happened, yet he promised us something new.
Yes.
And so we keep on waiting for the same thing because we don't know what could possibly be different than what we've known. Because we haven't been in the spirit. We've only seen it in the natural. And I understand that the natural is just what has been already. It's in the spirit that all things are revealed, and that's where the mysteries are hidden.
Yes.
You can't hide anything in the natural, in the spirit.
Right. Come on.
Amen.
So sin conquered. I can't wait for that day. But how many understand? We have believed in our theology that he's going to come and eliminate sin. But that's not his job. He already eliminated sin in you. And it's given you dominion and it's given you authority so that you, the ecclesia, who owns and has the authority in the earth as kings, because he's king of kings. So if we're the kings of the earth, then we need to govern the earth. And we need to align it according to the promise he's given us, right?
Right.
Yes. Amen.
The earth is appointed for destruction. It can't be.
Not in our watch.
Not in the days, not if it's going to be in the days of Noah.
Right.
Because he reestablished a completely new alignment. I remind you, he said, I will never do it again.
Amen. He meant it.
So when there's a flood and we say, that was God, you lie, you fry boy. Because he said he will never do it like that again. Satan is a perverter,
Yes,
a copycat.
right.
And he loves to have the deceived even more.
Right.
So we believe that when there's a flood, God's judging his people. God's judgment to you is life.
Yes.
God's not going to judge his people to death. Why do you think he had a high priest? Because he didn't want to judge them to death.
Amen.
Come on.
Woo, preach.
Come on.
As a matter of fact, I can't remember, and John could be my witness, I'm not too sure, that there wasn't a year in the judgment within the kingdom of earth where a priest, a high priest, wasn't pure. Where the nation was eliminated because the high priest wasn't pure.
Right.
Because the heartbeat of the Father is not that.
Right.
He doesn't want to do it again.
Amen.
Because the high priest gets judged and is sinless. And once the judgment goes to him, it can go through him to the people. That's why we have to step into Christ, so the judgment goes through him to us, and then through us into the earth.
Yes.
Come on.
Amen.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. Hallelujah. Glory to God.
How are you guys doing?
Right.
Father wants us to begin to understand that although this sounds really awesome, there's going to be a work that has to be done.
Yes.
You know, and that's what the Spirit School does. And if you listen to all the other Spirit Schools out there, it's to establish an understanding and revelation in you.
Yes.
Not in a church, not in a community, in you individually. Because if I get it, and you get it, and you get it, and you, 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 then there's an explosion in the Spirit. Because he only needs two.
Right. That's it.
He only needs two, and it forms an ark, and there's a massive porthole of his glory to come in.
Glory.
When there's a handful of ones, burning ones that walks the earth, when there's 2 hands full, when there's 1,000, when there's 10,000, when there's 100,000, when there's 144,000, an explosion takes place, and alignment has to be.
Yes.
Because the fullness of the sons and the daughters reflects his glory into the earth. That's why he hasn't returned. Because there's no image. There's no place for him to ascend into.
Come on.
So if you're wondering why it's taken him 2,000 years, because the church is skefaffling. I said it before. My son asked me the other day, Dad, we're Christians, right? I said, yes. So is Jesus lying to us? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, he said he would come back. But it's been 2,000 years. Is he just taking his time, or is he just not coming back? But that's my 11-year-old, now 12-year-old. That's what the rest of the world's thinking. Your God's a fake, man. Who takes 2,000 years to come back? It's because we don't understand Jesus.
Right?
We don't understand what Jesus came to do. He didn't come to return. Get this, church. He came to have me understand what I'm supposed to do.
Amen.
Come on.
Yes, Lord.
He came to teach me who I am.
Yes.
That I bring restoration to the earth, like He brought restoration to me.
Right.
Mighty God.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you, thank you. Hallelujah.
Father wants us to understand that there will be a dimension of purity within the earth. We as the ecclesia will bring and be the rulers in the spirit,
Yes, Jesus.
not in the flesh.
Yes, Yeshua.
Maybe at a time, but the Father wants us to understand, and He wants you to know who you are in the spirit and the power that you carry. That's why I can legislate things without no one know. You know, I'm in the gym, and this lady, the manager of the gym, and of course it's a Christian place. They actually have a church within the gym on Gauze where we train at Cross Gates. And it's a nice environment, it's awesome people, I love them. And the lady, her son is really sick, and they don't know what's wrong with him. They don't understand why his blood's doing what it does. And now what they have to do all kinds of tests, and eventually they have to do an operation, and they still don't know even if that was going to work. And she's worried and she's stressed. And so someone prayed for her in the office. I saw it. Me and my wife, we prayed for her, not laying hands on her, because I was sitting outside with eating breakfast, and I went into the spirit, and I literally found my spirit in his room in the hospital, and I touched him in 3 places in his body. And all I did, in my understanding as a spirit being, is I brought alignment to his body. I didn't pray for healing. I didn't do anything. I just touched him 3 times. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my wife. I just asked her, you think he's in hospital because that's where I saw him? Or do you think he's at home? And she said, no, he's in the hospital still. And yesterday or today, she let us know that everything's going back up again.
Yes.
Things changing.
Jesus.
Hallelujah. Praise
See,
God.
we need to understand we rule in the spirit.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now there'll be a day just like Enoch. I bet you. I'm gambling with y'all. I need to understand that Enoch didn't just one day go into the kingdom of heaven. He started going in through his imagination, walking with the Father, just spending time with Him. Then one day his soul went in there with Him. Wow, this is awesome. Now it's double the reality. And then one day his body went in. Wow, that was cool. And it came back. It did that many times. It was a progressive dimension of intimacy. I mean, he lived 365 days of years. It's a year of years.
Hallelujah.
It represents something that we need to begin to understand. Live and move and have your being in Him. Understand that it's the engagement, it's that works that needs to go on. It's not going to happen if we don't do it.
Amen.
That's why what I teach here, and what we're talking about for the next couple of weeks, is you have to go out and change the way you look at it. Understand, the Father's focus is not sin.
Right.
That's your focus. Why? Because of the DNA mess up. Sin. And it's the sin that I'm born into. If I'm born into something, that's all I can focus on. But now, through the blood, we're born out of it into something new. So just change the way you think when you look at the Word and have it come from the heart of God, because the Logos represents the mind of Christ.
Right.
Amen.
How you guys doing?
Great.
Great.
Let's stand.
Woo, thank you so much. Hallelujah. Oh, thank you.
Father, in this time we begin to understand, we begin to perceive, we begin to go deeper into who you are. We begin to realize that in the days that lay ahead, there will be dimensions of your glory poured into us from the kingdom of heaven. That's why we live out of the kingdom of heaven, and we begin to frame that world and we project it into our today. But it has to be a lifestyle. We can't just focus on the gifts. The gifts give you a vision. The stepping into the Spirit gives you a visitation that eventually turns into habitation. It's His desire for you to understand living, moving, having your being in Him, and then projecting that life, the Zoe life, into the earth. That's why I said I came to give you life, and life more abundantly. I want you to understand that and have that revelation. And so, Father, today we begin to understand what it means to live out of the days of Noah, the understanding of who Noah was, the glory, the power, the alignment of his righteousness, the fullness of his glory, the DNA that was completely different than the rest of the nation. Father, I ask that we'll begin to see who we are. And now that we are three-strand DNA beings, that we are different. We are a new creation. A matter of fact, we're a creation that's never been. We are the last generation within the earth. We are the last age. And so that which is to come is beyond what we can fathom. You've left the best for last. And every one of the cloud of witnesses, the saints of old, the men in white linen, they want to sow into this time. They want to sow into the season. They want to sow into the lives of the ecclesia of today, because they know that we are to experience in the earth what has never been experienced. But in the same breath as the Hebrew culture goes, what was in the beginning will be in the end. We will begin to walk face to face in the full capacity like Adam and Eve did in the garden. We begin to understand fullness of His presence and the power that they had, the glory, the fire that was in them, that projected everywhere they went. It brought alignment to everything as He breathed and framed things to be. This is the breath of Yahweh that gives life. We'll begin to understand it, Father, begin to walk deeper with you. I speak that over your people. I speak that into the day, into the city, into the night, and ask, Father, you will consume us with your glory and take everyone in this room to a new place, higher, wider, deeper into you. We love you, we praise you, and we thank you, my King. Amen.